Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Minerva Theatre for the pre-show for the fourth show in what's already been an astonishing 2016 season here in the Minerva. My name's Kate Mosse. I'm a novelist and a playwright and the biographer of CFT, as most of you know. And what we're going to do this evening is chat with Bertie Carvel, who is the director of the wonderful play that you might see this evening or might already have seen, Strife. So, Bertie.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello, thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's not often that I'm interviewing an Olivier Award-winning actor about directing. So this is your directing debut, Strife, John Galsworthy. It's nearly the 150th anniversary of his birth. Are you a Galsworthy fan? Were you approached by Jonathan? Did you take the project to him? Tell us a little bit about how Strife came about.
I took the project to Jonathan. I did a play with Jonathan. He directed The Circle in the Main House in 2008. And I was in that playing Teddy... Oh, what was his name?
Chichester audience. Nobody knows.
He's the character who has the line, anyone for tennis. So it was that play. Although actually it was not dissimilarly to this play, it was a Somerset Maugham play that you might have might assume was a piece of kind of froth. And I actually thought that it was a really interesting choice of play, The Circle this is, because Maugham, like Galsworthy, knew a thing or two about humanity, and he wrote a very well-made play, but that revealed something really quite profound, I think. So I did that with Jonathan, and then I've always wanted to direct, and I've been trying for years to persuade someone to let me have a go in a major house, and of course they've never yet said yes until I brought this play to Jonathan, because I knew it, having read it, I think, at drama school, and at that time I think I was looking for speeches. You do this awful thing at drama school where you have 2 minutes to kind of sell yourself at the end of the 3 years and get an agent and have a career or not. And everybody trawls the library looking for the thing that's going to best serve them. And the speech of Roberts in the middle of the play, who is the firebrand socialist, connected to my sort of adolescent socialism. And I sort of read this as a socialist play, and I was very excited by it. And I think I wanted to do it, and I didn't end up doing it for some reason. Anyway, coming back to it years later, when we were making a film about the coalition, and I was doing a lot of thinking at that time. I was playing Nick Clegg and For My Sins, and I was doing a lot of thinking about the difficulty of compromise and what the position that in our tribal political system that Clegg and others found themselves in, of trying to broker a compromise, and that the very nature of compromise, ironically, given that that's what parliamentary politics is supposed to be about, becomes very difficult because of because of the sort of Manichaean sort of tribal system that we have, and more deeply than that, I think that shows up something about the tribal nature of people's own ideologies and passions and deeply held political beliefs. And I remembered this play, and I went back and read it, and I was struck by how incredibly mature Galsworthy's portrait of the political spectrum is. And it's not a socialist play, neither is it an anti-socialist play. In fact, it contains, I think, the whole spectrum. And I've always been interested in current affairs. My father was a political journalist, and his father was, and I was the one who got away and just didn't go and do that. But I've always been sort of lit up by that stuff. So I thought, this is fantastic, and took it to Jonathan with a strong concept of what I would like to do with it, and to my absolute amazement and delight, he just said yes on the spot.
When he said yes, did you think, whoa, or did you think, oh no?
I thought, has he not slept or not? No. Frankly, it was a good idea, I think, and the reason he said yes, Jonathan's an incredibly canny producer and artistic director as well as a director. He's got a very good, as I'm sure you'd all agree, the way he's programmed these seasons. He's got an incredibly good nose for something that's going to sort of move the needle in terms of our theatre. So I think it's because it was a good idea, and where before I've pitched to people and I've known going away from it how I needed to improve my pitch or think in a different way about what that house might want or that artistic director might need to fill a programme. I think this was right play, right time, right
so
vision.
before it had kind of been about you, not what they needed.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just... it's also about a sort of moment in one's career and people trusting you, actually. You know, I've never directed anything before, so it is difficult to... What's difficult is that
You would not know that. I mean, you're rolling your eyes, but it is an astonishing piece of work, and the idea that this is a debut is really...
hubristic in the extreme, which is appropriate when you see the play. Yeah, I mean, you know, why not go for it? And I suppose I've wanted to do it for a long time, but you know, lots of friends who've come up as people, the very difficult ladder of the director who wants, you know, who does assisting projects, associate director jobs, puts on work on their own, but you know, finding the money to put stuff on, and it's just an incredibly, it's 7 full-time jobs, and you end up producing as well as, and I have just never been able to do that and keep my acting career going. So there came a point, I suppose, where I knew enough about what I was doing acting-wise, far enough ahead, that there was some time, and was able to take a risk and put aside, I mean, it's been 18 months at least in the planning this. And then also, I suppose, the trust of people around you that maybe it might not be such a completely bonkers idea.
So you had it's clearly this play is one of those plays for you that sat close to your heart, on and off.
It has, yeah.
So you had an idea of how you wanted to do it, and that was part of what you said to Jonathan. The reality of then delivering that is different.
Absolutely.
So what was it like on that first day in auditions when you are sitting on that side of the desk and those people, and you've been there earlier in your career being that guy that comes in and has to do the thing? How did that change, and what do you think was different because you are a working actor as well?
Well, first of all, I mean, at first it was, I mean, most things about this experience have been sort of terrifying or electrifying. You know, they've been exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure, because you know, I mean, the first time you do anything, you're sort of waiting to get it wrong or be found out or be challenged on it, and so that was odd, and having it's a complete paradigm shift. Occupying a space in a rehearsal room or an audition room. As an actor, you're used to a certain way of managing your own ego so that you can be heard and get your ideas through, but within the approach. And as a director, you have to do a different managing act. I mean, it's the mirror of the thing, really. But it was strange wearing a different hat. But you know, that's why I wanted to do it. So it wasn't.
Did it feel like you thought it was going to feel?
Yeah, I suppose it did. Really. I mean, I'm not a parent yet, but I think I've got a lot of friends who have become parents, you know, in the last few years, and I see in them a sort of there's a kind of terror and an elation. You know, they're doing it for the first time, following some kind of instinct, right? And that's all you have at the end of the day, and you feel like you know, who let me do this? But then
are you allowed to take them home?
There is also some instinct, isn't there, that kind of kicks in, and you have to sort of trust that. That's where the analogy ends. I'm deeply resentful as an actor myself of any comparison of actors with children, which is one analogy that gets made too often. So I'm not going to push
This is the one moment you can do it, though. So with the play, which I'm sure many people like me knew Galsworthy for the Forsyte Saga. I thought of him as a novelist and Nobel-winning, 1932 won the Nobel Prize for Literature. Didn't know about the playwriting. Now, it's set in 1909. It is at the end of a cold winter of strike, South Wales. So you have this very well put together text and play with these very strong characters. Did you always feel that in order for the integrity of the play to be kept, you needed to set it when it was written? Or did you toy with ideas of it's relevant now and therefore how do we bring those things? Just tell us a little bit about your creative decisions.
There's a kind of loud harmonic with our present moment in all kinds of ways. I couldn't have known when I took this to Jonathan that all the stuff that's been happening with the steel industry and Tata Steel and Chinese dumping, which weirdly enough, I mean, the harmonic is so powerful in the 1890s. With tin plate, this is tin plate, by the way. Tin plate is tin-coated steel sheets, steel that starts as an ingot, comes in from the steelworks down the road, it gets chopped into bars, then reheated, then they roll it, at the time in these old pack mills, they'd roll it to a thinness and back until you got very thin sheets of steel, which would then be dipped in molten tin and annealed, and the process was repeated. And so that's what these workers in the play do. And that's what you make tin cans out of. And it was like, South Wales was like Silicon Valley in the 1860s, 1870s. Suddenly you had this product that meant you could package food and send it all over the world. You could feed armies. It was revolutionary. And people were coining it in. Come 1890, William McKinley, who was the American Secretary of State at the time and then went on to be president, decided that the Americans needed to get their own domestic industry going. There's so much money to be made here. And lots of Welsh people actually went over with the technology and the know-how. And they slapped a massive import tariff on various things, including tin plate. And it decimated the tin plate industry. So there was a huge slump in South Wales. At that time, South Wales produced 90% of the world's tin plate. Wow. And this was a product in massively high demand. So, I mean, it was Tinopolis, they called it in Llanelli. It was incredibly wealthy place, and these workers were very highly paid. But come the period of our play, you've had a sort of depression in the industry. So the board, who are facing a decision, they're facing striking workers who want different pay and conditions, are in the position of managing this global climate, not dissimilarly to the way in which tin plate manufacturers like Tata now are with the various. I mean, it's a weird harmonic. Anyway, I didn't know any of that then. What I did know was that we're, I think, close cousins of the Edwardians. In that, I mean, in a sense, my own political position, which I've tried very hard to keep out of the play. Incidentally, Galsworthy, another thing that's very striking about the play, and I come from a line of journalists, so I respect this deeply, is that he keeps his own politics, which were to the left, out of the play, I think, more or less entirely. You might disagree, having seen the play, but I think it's a very balanced piece of work.
And the way that you have directed it, you have a very, very strong cast that represent things, but they're also very much themselves, and there's a huge sense of feeling between the cast, I thought. Really wonderful, strong cast.
They're an amazing group of actors, and I'm so lucky that, lucky in so many ways to get to do this at all, but to get to do it here with all the support that, it couldn't be better supported, but then the icing on the cake, really, and the cherry too, is the only thing that really matters in a play, I think, at the end of the day, other than the play itself, is the actors and the acting. I have the most wonderful cast, a dream cast.
So what I was going to say about that, just picking up your point about the political affiliations are not clear, is that it's very easy, if a play is political with either big or a small p, that the characters with whom the author has sympathy are somehow more well sketched than the other ones. Whereas what was very striking, I thought, seeing it last night, was that there was a real even-handedness about the opinions, so that we, the audience, could listen to each of the arguments and think, do you know, I think he's wrong and he maybe is right, and each member of the audience will feel slightly different. I think that's a great triumph of what you've done.
It challenges your assumptions. I'm sure people will have vastly different experiences, but hopefully, depending on their starting point, but hopefully travel an even distance towards some kind of a synthesis. And just to answer your earlier question about updating, I mean, I don't think the play would take or needs in any way to be modernised and set now. But I think when you see it in the context of the design that Rob Jones has created and the whole aesthetic, I think the idea is that you take something that has a powerful resonance and you put it through the megaphone of a certain kind of staging, but then you leave it alone and let the play in its own time speak and I think it does very powerfully, and I think it speaks very powerfully to our present moment. But it's not because, you know, we happen to be going through a steel crisis now. I think the reason that the play resonates is because it's such a good play, and he's put his finger on something that's perennially true about the psyche of a political struggle, a deeply political struggle, and individuals within that. So I think really it's a play about what happens to people when they think they're right. It's a play about compromise in every sense of that word, about being compromised.
Do you think the moral heart of it, in a way, is when is it strong to compromise rather than weak, versus when is it weak to compromise? Because that's what it felt like from the audience.
I think that's, I think that's in there, but I think that if you were to have to sort of, I think compromise is a theme, but I think compromise in various different senses of the word. And I don't know that I think it's not a play that contains a moral position. He had this wonderful sentence that I've quoted in the programme, those of you who have one. He says something like, he says there are three choices open to the sensible dramatist, the serious dramatist. One is to basically show the world that you think the audience recognise. One is to shock them with a world that they didn't recognise. The third is to set before the audience no cut-and-dried codes. I've got it written down here. I'll read it to you because it's a rather beautiful passage. He says, to set before the public no cut-and-dried codes, but the phenomena of life and character, selected and combined, but not distorted by the dramatist's outlook, set down without fear, favour or prejudice, allowing the public to draw what poor moral nature may afford. This method requires a certain detachment. It requires a sympathy with, a love of, and a curiosity as to things for their own sake. It requires a far view, together with patient industry, for no immediately practical result. Which I just think is really beautiful. And that, to me, is what journalism is about, actually, or good journalism with integrity, is about present. I mean, I went to the University of Sussex, where I learned that there's no such thing as objectivity.
That's possibly true in Brighton, but I don't think that's true of Chichester. But
well, over that way, they tend to think that it's impossible not to be subjective, and I tend to agree. Nevertheless, there is possible, isn't it, to present a sort of balanced subjectivity, and I think that's what this play tries to do.
And final question from me before we go out for our rapid-fire questions. You've had this first experience of directing. You had a clear idea of how you want to do it. You've done some really clever things about explaining tin plate mining without, and we can't say any of those because we don't want to spoil it, and the beautiful set plays a part in that. It
isn't mining, actually. It's a natural assumption to make because of the association with Wales and with strikes. And I probably haven't made that clear enough. But, you know, so what they do is they fashion these tin plates. Anyway, go on.
No, don't worry. No, it is good you know. But we don't need to know. I mean, no offence.
I'll get all boff in it.
Yeah, no, I can see.
I could talk for hours about
this is it's the loving, it's the passion that you have for it now. It's like you need to explain it. So just assume that I'm fumbling and use the wrong word.
Sorry.
But what I really wanted to ask was, does the play that we see look like the play that you imagined? How's it been doing this? Have you achieved
so much more than I could have imagined? Because, you know, I mean, it's an incredible joy to see one's vision realised. But I think it's an even greater joy to see, you know, I couldn't count the number of people who've worked on this show, but there are 19 in the cast. There must be at least that many creatives and crew, and at least that many, if not twice that many again. So, and producers and people who've helped, people who've come. It's a massive collaboration, but at the heart of it, you know, a group of actors and stage management who come together to make it so much more than one could. And, you know, working with all the designer, the sound designer, the lighting designer, who take one's initial suggestion or idea and just deliver it and make it 1,000 times better than one could ever have conceived. So it's like having the best sort of toy set in the world, and just that. Yeah, I love it. I think it's amazing.
So you will do it again?
If anyone's naive enough to let me, then I would love to.
No, but that's one, because you've wanted to do this for a long time, and sometimes you do this very special play or this one thing, and you discover that that actually was your moment. You don't necessarily want to carry the guilt on any further.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from it, and I don't regard it as a career path. But I would love to do more. I'm not going to stop acting, I don't think. And again, unless people stop inviting me to, which just may happen.
It's always good to have strings to bows and all of that sort of thing. Can we have the lights up so we can have a few questions if there are any? Thank you. Who would like to ask a first question? Lady in the front, thank you very much.
Hello, just from curiosity, why you didn't cast yourself in the play?
Why did you not cast yourself in the play?
I'm a little bit disappointed not to see you on the stage.
Yeah, but he's here on the stage anyway, you know.
There are better people for all these parts, and you're going to see them tonight. B, I don't think you could direct yourself unless you were... I mean, to do that, to do that for the first time round would be an act of such extreme hubris that even I wouldn't attempt it. I mean, that's not the challenge in this case. But there is not a part in this play that I could play 1/10 as well as the cast you're going to see. So I'm not being sort of buttering them up. I really believe that.
Gentleman there, thank you very much.
Thanks very much. You definitely whetted my appetite. I liked your idea that there's a strong harmonic between then and now. Could you imagine casting any of the current political leaders into the play?
Could you cast any of the current political leaders? You notice when you mentioned Nick Clegg, people went, "Ah." In a sympathy way, I think.
If you don't mind, if it's not avoiding the question, I would like to ask you that after you've seen it at the end of the night. I mean, yes, there are clear... I would imagine it if you came up to me afterwards and said, yes, I've thought about that question and I think such and such. You'll see resonance all over the place. It would box the play in too much and box those people in too much to say that, so-and-so stands in for so-and-so. It's not that. And if it were, then I might have considered setting it now and, making that more explicit. But it's, yes, it's a robust enough piece of work that you will see all kinds of familiar faces, I think.
Yeah. Lovely question. Gentleman there, thank you.
What do you think about reviving some of his other stuff? Because he did write a play, I think, called The Silver Box, about the relations between Jews and Gentiles. I wonder if that could ever be revived at some point in the future.
I haven't read that play. I have a copy of his complete works, which there's a story behind, but we probably haven't got time for it, and it's not a great story anyway. So. I know he was incredibly prolific, wasn't he? And one of the things I didn't know before doing more research into this play was how prolific a playwright he was, and that he was primarily known as a playwright until the latter part of his career. I know he wrote a lot of plays that people regarded to be social issues plays, and I've seen letters where he angrily wrote to his producer, feeling himself to have been traduced as a sort of social realist dramatist when he just thought he was writing about humanity. And that's interesting in itself. So, yes, I would consider reviving his other plays, and I hope that production will meet with such round acclaim that I'll be credited with rediscovering Galsworthy, but I don't think I can take that credit, really.
Another question.
Having seen the play, and you've talked about the wonderful cast, which I would agree with, the one casting decision that intrigued me was the footman cum butler. Could you just explain the gender? So
Thank you.
The valet, John Anthony's valet, is a man called Frost, and it's played by an actor called Nicholas Sloane, who also plays Mrs. Rouse in the second scene. So she plays Frost in the first and last scene and Rouse in the second scene. I gave Nicola the choice. I was always was keen that there was no reason in a production... Look, I'll tell you this. I think the theatre is an abstract medium. And having seen the production, you'll know that I'm fond of abstract stage settings, for example. And the reason I think that is that the minute you walk into a theatre, you engage in active imagination. You agree that this space that you know is just a building stands in for whatever you're about to see, and you agree that a bunch of actors you know are downstairs getting their frocks on are going to come out and present characters. And I think that's what's thrilling about the theatre. And I always really like it when the theatre asks even more of you. So says, there's no reason why this actor shouldn't, I myself have played two women, and I've really enjoyed that because I think there's something inherent in the act of theatre which is about transformation. And I actually don't see any real structural difference between one person saying they are another, regardless of their gender, as long as the act of imagination is vivid, which in that performance it certainly is. And I also, we talked in rehearsals about should we make Frost a female character, and it was a so much stronger, clearer choice. Apart from anything else, it's what Galsworthy wrote, and that relationship between the valet and the master is a very particular kind of relationship. So that's why I made that decision, and Nicola agreed that was the strong thing and the exciting thing, and I think she's right, that provides the best opportunity for witnessing some acting. And I've always, when I go to the theatre, I really like to see a detailed transformation, which is what I think you have in that performance.
That's lovely, thank you. Is there a final question over here? Lady there, thank you.
I think that it's very interesting that you say that it was 18 months ago that you began to think very seriously about the play, and the play started to happen. And then to see the extraordinary political upheavals we've had in the last 18 months, and the pain and anguish of Tartar Steel that couldn't surely have been in your vision. It seems so poignant and visionary that such a play would be with us to help us find a voice for the complexities.
Well, so obviously, have you seen the play already? No. Well, you'll find that, I mean, clearly that drama, that real-life drama, has inflected the vision that we've put on stage. One's been acutely aware of that, and I felt rather sort of sick, actually, at how, but I admit also exhilarated, watching that drama unfold and thinking, God, this is the play I'm doing. And it's absolutely bled into the way it's been staged and presented and designed, and every element of the production. I mean, the only thing that was in any way visionary was that I thought that in the political climate we were in when I was pitching this, which was about a year and a half ago, I think, that we were bound to feel that a play about industrial action was apposite around now, and I wasn't wrong. But I had no idea that it would relate so specifically to... In fact, indeed, at that time, I hadn't yet done the copious research that I've done since, and I had made the same assumption as you, that they were tin miners. And it was only in a closer reading of the play and then investigating what this thing called tin plate was that I came to understand that actually the tin plate workers are steel workers, and they, you know, the works are practically next door. You know, they make the steel there, and then they chop it up into bars and roll it into thin sheets and dip it into tin there, and that's what these guys do. And I mean, I considered at one stage projecting some incredible video footage that still exists of the old style pack mills out in the foyer, and unfortunately we couldn't make that work. But it was, you know, they're flinging these red hot sheets of steel that have been rolled through hot rollers, which are mechanised hot rollers driven by a huge steam-driven flywheel, flinging them across the floor.
I'm going to stop you on that moment because...
Am I getting
No, I think the one thing, because I'm very mindful of the time, and we do need to give the theatre back to the actors and all of your amazing team that are producing such a beautiful play. But actually, I think the best thing about it is clear that if something matters to a creative person, it might take years to bubble up, to happen, not just the 18 months, but the fact that you read the play way back when you were a student, and the fact now that actually the minute you start talking about it, you're just like, oh, this is so amazing, because that is, I'm sure, what Galsworthy would have wanted, the idea of the knowledge of it, as well as the creativity and the imagination, and I think he would be thrilled with what you've done for him and the discovery of this play. We are going to have to let Bertie go back to his people. There will be a post-show in here on the 30th of August, which I'll be hosting with members of the cast. So if you want to come to that, you don't have to have seen the performance that night, but you just need to come along at the end of it. There is, as well, there isn't a huge article by Bertie, but there is a very good article by a professor in the programme about many of the issues behind this. And that professor, Professor Simon Baker, will be here on Wednesday, the 7th of September, 5 o'clock, in the Stephen Pimlott building. And we'll be talking about Galsworthy and many of the social issues that are up in the play. So if your appetite has been whetted by Bertie and his passion for this, do go along and hear that. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, can you please thank Bertie Carvel.